If you're working on woodworking projects where you want to have a good paint job on them, then you need to seal them. In this video, I'm going to show you a technique for sealing your projects, especially if they're going to be outside. idcwoodcraft.com. I'm Garrett Fromme from idcwoodcraft, a CNC router bit supplier. And in this video, I'm going to show you a technique to seal your woodworking projects when you need to paint them where you want to get a good smooth paint job. Lead this off, I have a project here of what we call a sandwich board or a sandwich sign. And what this is a sign that will sit like this, and there will be another board, which is this one, that will sit like that, and this sign will be outside of a store. So I've been commissioned to work on this sign. So the first thing I did was cut the bottom of the sign just like that on my Phantom CNC router here. And now we're going to take this over to my workstation and we're going to get this ready to seal it, and then I'm going to seal it. So I'll show you the techniques I go through it. So let's get over to the workstation. In case you're wondering what a sandwich sign is, it's just like this. In fact, this is the one that I'll be making. It's going to be a little updated. It's going to have a QR code on it. But if you turn it sideways, that's what a sandwich sign is. It's got the information on both sides of the sign, and this was glued together, but it blew over in a storm that we had and got torn up. It used to be on wheels. We're going to make a much better one. In order to prepare this project for sealing, I've got to use several tools, and then I have to have the sealer. So I want to run through what I'm going to be doing, and then we'll actually run through the process. So on this sandwich board here, we have sharp corners. And this is going to be something that's going to be outdoors. It's going to be moved a lot, so we want to round over these corners a bit. So I'm going to use a rounding bit. This is a 1/8 radius, and that's a guide bearing on it. And then with that, I'm going to be using it with the Makita palm router here. A good handheld tool, very light to work with. And then to seal the board, I'm going to be using Minwax Sanding Sealer. This is a water-based sealer, so it dries quickly, so we can put multiple coats on at the same time. Of course, we'll use a brush. You can use a roller if you want, but I'm not going to waste a roller for this space. The other thing that we are going to be using in this project is a palm sander, because after we put the finish on, we have to sand it. We're going to finish it twice. And I usually use 220 grit sandpaper because it just leaves a nice clean finish. I don't need to take off a lot of material. I just need to smooth things out. I'll link everything that I'm using down below in the description of this video. And also, when we seal it, we're going to seal both sides. So we don't want the bottom side, when I flip it over, to be sitting on my workbench here. So we're going to create a little standoff for it. I got a couple of boards here, and we're going to use a couple interesting screws here that you may be interested in. It's a brand called Velocity, and I'll explain this to you in a little while. You're going to love these screws over the general purpose screws that you normally use. So I'm going to set up the router bit in the trim router so that it only just rounds over the edge of the project. The rounding bit's now installed in the router, and what I've done, if you come in close, I have eyeballed along this little plane that I've put on there, and to see if if it's going to step out. In other words, if it's going to create kind of a bead cut where it will dig down into the wood before it starts surrounding. So we always do a test when we set router bits up like that. I'm going to use it on this little piece here. We'll do a little quick cut. And I've got a little bit of a step on this top edge, so that means my adjustment is out. So we're just going to bring it down just a little bit and try it again. So we're good here. We got a good radius here. We didn't get a little bead cut here. So we're going to run all the way around both sides of the board to get that nice little rounded edge, and then we're going to move on. So if you take a look at this board here, we got a big chunk taken out of it, and when they cut it, they got some chip out along here. So I'm going to need to talk to them. The owner was okay with this chip out. It's on the inside of the sign, so we're not going to worry about it. So now I got to get the palm sander ready so I can just sand everything up real quick, and we need to sand out these radiuses a little bit and the ends. Now I'll probably sand that by hand, but the top surface I'll use the palm sander just to clean things up a little bit. So what I like to do with the 220 grit sandpaper for palm sanders is I'll buy the large sheets and then I'll cut them down. And I like to buy them in big bunches because I use this all the time. So this one is Fandel brand, Fandelli, 220 grit. You can get this off Amazon. I'll link this down below. Here's how I set up the sandpaper. Instead of buying the little 4x4 pieces of sandpaper that fit on these, I'll take this sheet, and it's designed so that I can get 4 sheets out of it. So what I've done is I've folded it in half. I've got a knife here, and I've pressed it down so the knife can follow through there. And we will just run the knife through. And then we do the same thing, cut it in half. Again, fold it in half, and then we'll cut it in half. And I'll do both because I don't have a wide sander for that. So I always use a palm sander. And we'll do the same thing. And just like that. There we go. So now we have our first piece. We're going to put that on the sander. It's however your palm sander works. If you're getting into woodworking, I definitely recommend one of these. This Craftsman works great, but any of them will work great. I'll link a couple down below in the description of this video that I like, the brands. DeWalt would be one of them. So we're going to hook that up. Now usually these are a little bit longer than the actual pad when we wrap it around, so the sandpaper would be really loose. I'll show you what I mean. If I was to put the sandpaper under the clamp right now, sometimes it's a little bit of a pain. Okay, so that's butted into the clamp. Now we can see the sandpaper is real loose and flimsy. And that's not going to work so well because as the sander's orbiting around, this is going to be moving. It's not going to be doing the sanding that it needs to do. So what I'll do is I'll just fold the edge of it in a little bit, just like that, or I could cut it, and then I'll put it back in. And now we don't have quite as much play. I still have a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that. And now I'll just, well, we're not done with it. I'm going to take the piece and I'm just going to run across that radius, just like that, enough just to smooth it out. When I feel it with my hand, I can tell if I have any burrs. I don't want any burrs on here while I'm doing this. Of course, we're going to sand this again after we put the sealer on. So now I'm going to sand all these. So what I'm doing is I'm wrapping my hand around it so I get both sides at the same time. And then I'll just run my finger there. Yep, we got a good sand. Maybe a little bit of an edge there. I just don't want any corners on there. So we'll smooth out each corner as well. It's got a little bit of a corner every once in a while. I might have lifted the router up a tad. And then I'm also just sanding the edges of it. This is not rocket science because it's a big outdoor sign. Many people won't see it, but it's an advertisement for a customer. All the sanding is now done, so now of course we have to clean up all the sawdust, get this very clean, and then we can start putting the sanding sealer on. When you're dusting off, I suggest that you use the real fine horsehair type of brushes to get your sawdust off. They're very effective for getting a lot of material off quickly. Now I have to make the standoffs so that when I put the sealer on the board, it's not on the table. And so what I'll do is I'll take a couple of boards just like this, and I'll drive some screws through it so the screws are above it, and then that board will sit down like that, and these panels will sit right on that. Now, this is something you're going to love. You've worked with all-purpose screws, and these are your standard screws, and these are your standard screwdriver tip. So when we use them, most people, when they're doing it, they'll drop their screws just like that. And how many screws have you dropped? So I want to show you this brand that I have discovered and I'm now starting to use, a brand called Velocity. And they have a whole slew of screws, but these are quite different. So what they have done is they have engineered their screw heads so that the screws will stay on the driver. You just push it in and that screw will not fall out. It's not non-magnetic. It's actually like a little bit of a snap when you put it in. And so you can, like when you need to put a screw in and drive it in, we'll just put it in here real quick and just show you. If I'm using a standard screw, how many times have we tried to drive them, we lose the screw just like that? The difference here with the Velocity brand is I'm going to snap it in and now it won't fall out. It's in that driver, and so now I can run it through this piece just like that, and then I can pull it out and I won't lose the screws because they're fitted screws, literally fitted to the driver head. So if you've dropped screws, which I'm sure you have in the grass, on your shop, tire poppers, this is something you may want to really consider. I'll put a link for Velocity down below in the description of this video. They've got them for indoor and outdoor screws. I really like this. It's non-magnetic. I can't get that screw off if I want to. Well, almost can. So the good thing is I can hold this thing upside down and never lose the screw. Some people don't believe that this Velocity screw setup is non-magnetic. So first of all, here's a standard screw bit, and I put that on, the screw on, and it's got a little bit of magnetism to it. And I put the Velocity screw on there, and it's, so we can get that to hold better. There we go, little magnetism. But we take this one, which is that, and the screw won't come out unless you pop it out. And just gently put it up there, and it will not, it's non-magnetic. All right, so my two standoffs are made. Let's close that up. And these will be under the board just like that. And if you take the camera down below, you'll be able to see that it's just the screw point that is holding the board. With the Minwax Sanding Sealer, these kind of things, you don't need to shake them up a lot because they're already, they don't settle. Seeing that it's water-based, it's very easy to clean up on your hands and clean your brushes. Now I'm just going to use a wide 3-inch brush, and we're just going to put it on here. We're going to be kind of heavy on it and let it soak and let it dry. In about an hour, this will be dry, and I can put on my second coat. And after this, then I'm going to let it dry. It looks pretty. So I've put 2 coats of this on, and it's only been about an hour, and everything is already dry. So now it's just a matter of sanding the boards, the sides, both boards, with the 220 grit sandpaper. Now, before I get into the sanding part of it, just remember I got links for everything I use down below, and you definitely want to check out these Velocity screws. These are your next level to the all-purpose screws. These Velocity screws, they drop right into your thing. They hold. They're engineered quite well. I would push that on and you can't get it off of there without tugging on it a little bit. There's all kinds of screws for velocity, and so the affiliate links are down below to go check that out. Let's get to sanding. And there we go. Everything's sanded up, ready for a paint job. And this is what the sandwich board, sandwich sign will ultimately be doing when everything is said and done. It'll have a hinge on it, along the top. There'll be a chain so it can't plop open. We might put a wheel on it so we can roll it around like that. That's it. Check the links out below and have a great day. idcwoodcraft.com